Hey everybody, it's Mallory Donahue of the Self-Sewn Wardrobe. And if you're joining me on your phone, if you're watching, maybe I should wait until a few more people are watching, but if you're joining me on your phone, click the little video description so that you can give permission for me to be able to see your name when you comment. So here, let me find this and show you what it looks like. So I'm going live here, and see, if you see it on your phone, there's this little video description, and there is a little link there to give permission for me to see your name when you comment. So, oh my gosh, yesterday, I put up the day 6 prompt for this 31 days of sewing a little early, because I thought that I would be able to, I thought I'd be able to go through some of these organization blogs that you all have recommended, and I have not, of course, gotten to read all of them. Okay, whoever just commented, Mallory, you need to give permission for me to see your name, because I don't know who it is right now. So, anyway, you all gave so many suggestions for blogs. I'm going to attempt to put them into a little list, and then I'm going to put a disclaimer at the top, like, I have not read all of these. So if you come across anything that you don't like, it's not my fault. But organizing and decluttering it's a huge thing that people are talking about nowadays. Like, especially over here in the Western world, you know, you might think when you hear about an organizing and a decluttering blog, like, oh, first world problems. Like, for sure, of course. Absolutely. Like, the problem of having too much stuff is probably a rather new problem for so many people to have. It can help us reflect on the disposability of the things we buy, on how much we buy. It can help us sort of, reflect upon all that and reflect upon how a lot of people are, making their living helping people declutter and organize. And I think that's great. In fact, someone commented that they came across like a local person who came in and helped them declutter. And I think that is wonderful if that's a big problem for you. So, hey, Candace. All right. It's Candace. All right. Well, this is what my hair looks like when I don't, wash it and comb it. It's just been, one day. That's all. I just didn't, wash it and comb it and let it dry like that. So it's kind of crazy. It's a little bit of dark background. That's on purpose. So anyway, if you're like, did you get a new haircut? No, this is what it looks like when I sleep on it. So anyway, all right. So organizing and decluttering blogs. Y'all had some really strong feelings on this. Someone who I have been following lately, and actually I had a production meeting with kind of a new friend last night, someone who I didn't know very well, and she mentioned this person too. The blog and the podcast is called A Slob Comes Clean. And personally for me, her stuff has been really helpful. But someone just commented, I think that, thanks, Lindsay. I think that Fred commented, she said that the latest A Slob Comes Clean podcast is her kind of bashing on Marie Kondo. And so that makes me a little sad, because I want everyone to find what they like and know that everything might not work for them. But why do we have such strong reactions to some people's advice on decluttering? Why are we... some people are like, I don't like to be infantilized. I find a lot of this media demeaning. I find a lot of this, condescending. And yes. So everyone, seems like the biggest problem we have with organizing and decluttering blogs, media, podcasts, whatever, books, is when they're demeaning and condescending. So I think that says a lot. I guess our society places a lot of value upon, what, how clean we are or how well we're able to handle our stuff, and yet it's something that obviously a lot of people struggle with, Yes, Candace, I can see you. So anyway, a lot of people are struggling with this, and a lot of people are making media about it, but I agree. I really, it's when I Google a recipe, I seem to come upon lots of blogs that just do not resonate with me. And I know if you're a food blogger that you can't just write down the recipe. I understand how the internet and SEO works, and Google doesn't just want to see you publishing a recipe. In case you don't know this, a lot of recipe bloggers, they include all of those, all that extra stuff, and it's something they kind of have to do in order to make friends with the website crawlers. And a lot of recipes may contain affiliate links, and Google doesn't like to just like see all these links. So anyway, I understand why you're blogging, but then all of a sudden it's like I'm being preached at, like sometimes in a very real way, like all of a sudden I'm getting some like Bible verses, and that's fine. That's cool, and, but I'm like, whoa, I was like looking for the chicken and dumplings recipe. Now cooking, like sewing, intersects with lots of different areas of our life. But I don't have a problem with someone sharing that part of their lives, but occasionally it'll get a little too preachy. And, that's why I bring up A Slob Comes Clean, because she's a person who will mention her very strong faith, and she goes to church quite often, and how she's doing this project for church and but I don't feel like she's like, I don't know, going at me about how if my house isn't clean, then I'm going to hell or something like that. So I like that about her, okay? And I have lots of friends from lots of different religious and cultural backgrounds, so that's great. But I agree, a lot of homemaking stuff can feel very condescending sometimes. So someone commented on my post about what organizing and decluttering blogs do you follow, and they're like, I try not to read it. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, because a lot of times you just feel like somebody's sort of yelling at you about how stupid you are because you can't keep your house clean, So that's why I kind of like A Slob Comes Clean. I felt like she comes at it from the point of view that she is not good at keeping her house clean. And, neither am I. Now, and the other thing I really liked about her, the other thing I liked about her books and her media, is she had some stuff about, keeping up your house, okay? So many of you commented with all these things. You can tell that it's not media that I originally thought I would enjoy consuming. And so I would say that, another person who's in the news a lot, has her own Netflix show, and who I enjoy, is Marie Kondo, and her whole thing is does this spark joy? Right. And I can see why that doesn't always resonate with people. Fred brought up, does your toilet plunger spark joy? Oh, I don't know. And then Fred said, but what that really can apply to is, yeah, I'm going to be happy that I got this toilet plunger here when something happens. I shouldn't keep my broken toilet plungers that are taking up space that I maybe feel beholden to or something like that. I get the spark joy thing. It worked for me. I did some stuff like that in my house, but what I have trouble with was keeping up with putting things away and stuff like that. And I think Marie Kondo has a second book, and I didn't know that. I don't know what it's about, but A Slob Comes Clean, she has a book about keeping your house up, and it has made a huge difference for me. I'm talking a huge difference. I was just talking to my friend. She's dating this guy. She wants to marry him, and I was like, well, boy, do I have some relationship advice for you. For the first 10 years, keep your house just like a total frickin' wreck. And then all of a sudden get inspired to keep it clean. My husband's just whoa, what has happened? And here's where sometimes I bristle at the media on this. It seems like in a lot of cases, the people writing about cleaning and whatnot are women who are in relationships with men, and the cleaning seems to be all on them. And I don't like that. But here's how it manifested itself in my personal relationship with a man. It's I was a dirty control freak. Don't put that there. And then he's like, well, where does it go? And I'm like, well, I don't know yet because I haven't, figured that out, but one day I'm going to figure it out and everything's going to be perfect, And my husband's actually a pretty neat person. He's has none of the inherent issues that I do with not being able to deal with clutter and stuff. So anyway, some of it was kind of on me, especially if I was going to be the dirty control freak, that I was. So anyway, it's made a big difference. I feel much less stressed, my, just keeping track of my clothes and laundry and all that jazz. So that's great. Lindsay says, I find Kondo very extreme, but I can see how she helped people. I really like the UFYH, which is Unf Your Habitat, which I have not checked out, but obviously I think that might be my people because they have a swear word in their title, okay? I'm not saying it right now in case you got kids watching. Unf Your Habitat, for keeping up with your mess. She also addresses depression, disability, other reasons you might not be able to keep up with it. Yes, okay, so that's kind of where A Slob Comes Clean and these other media sources that Stina and Lindsay has just mentioned. Not all of us have the time or the energy or etc. to keep up with things in the way we might like. And I find, like, obviously Marie Kondo and I, we don't have the same, like, wiring in our brain, and that's fine. I even talk about the difference between myself and ZD. ZD is really good at keeping things organized, and she's good at keeping, like, a lot of things organized. She can do that. Like, I'm not great at that right now in my life, you know, so I actually need to kind of, like, have less stuff or have more systems or have more rules about what needs to be done. But I love addressing sort of the different ways that a brain can work and how everyone might not be able to follow the same practices or things like that. So no one likes demeaning or condescending decluttering media, okay? So no one likes that. Spark joy and, you know, the Marie Kondo thing and A Slob Comes Clean. I don't think that they're, like, polar opposites or anything, but they do seem to be, like, on either side of the spectrum. So, Marie Kondo's question is, does this spark joy? So you, like, pick it up, and you're like, do I like this thing? Yes, I like it. It sparks joy. I'm going to keep it. And if you don't, you say thank you to it, and you put it away. I like that part. I do, because, like, from what I have observed and read about people's attachment to things, and I'm not like a, you know, psychologist or anything, but like, if you get rid of something just because someone else wants you to, you might find those things coming back, or you might, you know, have some like big time regret or something like that. So I like that she sort of is exploring the relationship with the physical things. Like, I think that is a good start. Now, Dana at A Slob Comes Clean, she actually says that she takes the emotion out of it because she thinks her emotions can way complicate things. She says the spark joy question really, she's like, well, I can come up. She's like, I have this brain that will make me automatically think of justifications for keeping things, you know, and I can see how that would be difficult. I don't have that particular problem, you know, personally. That's not something, the spark joy question actually, like, works okay for me. So, her decluttering questions are, or her steps for decluttering are, if you pick up an item, you take it to the place where you would look for it first. So, this is where things were a little freeing for me with her. She didn't say, come up with the perfect place to put it. She didn't say, this is where you should be keeping your screwdrivers or your tweezers or your whatever the hell you find. She didn't say that. She said, where would you look for this item? And so if you look for your tweezers in the coffee table drawer, you're going to take it there. And the reason being is you might find like 5 other tweezers there and you're like, oh, okay, here we are. Might you change that later? Maybe. But her, and you do it right then so that you don't make a bigger mess while you're decluttering. You don't like empty out the junk drawer onto the floor and then proceed to make piles because she says you're going to get interrupted. Hello. Absolutely. That is some advice that I think is really pertinent to the sewing studio because most of us here don't just get to sew for hours uninterrupted. How could you sew or how could you start to straighten your sewing studio without making a bigger mess? Like, should you take out all of your fabric and put it all on the floor and then start putting it all back? I mean, maybe one day you need to do that. But are there things that you can do that would actually help you declutter or organize without making that bigger mess? So first is to take the thing to where you would look for it first, even if it's an imperfect place. I like that. And her second decluttering question is, if I were to look for one of these items, if I needed this, would I know that I already had it? And this one didn't make sense to me for a while. I don't have like that much too much stuff. She talks about having, like, kind of this eBay habit where she bought a bunch of things and, like, wanted to resell them, but then, you know, like, became too much and stuff. I don't think that I have, like, quite as much stuff as she did, and that she deals with. So why didn't that make sense to me? She was like, if you didn't even know this was on your radar, then it needs to be donated or be thrown away, or is this food super duper expired or whatever. I finally kind of started to get it when she said that. So anyway, I like some of, here, where am I? A Slob Comes Clean. I like some of Marie Kondo. We can blend those things together. And then I love all of the resources that people have shared that address different sort of mental health issues or just your style of thinking and learning. Fabulous. I love that. So keep those coming. I'm going to try and do a little bit of a roundup, but I'm going to, once again, have to do that disclaimer. I haven't seen and read and researched all of them, but I do have to say that if this is something that's like bugging you and you can find someone that you identify with, like, I think that'd be, you know, really cool. I think it happens in our own time. If it's something that's, you know, worrying you about your, like, your house or your sewing room. Okay, how does any of this relate to your sewing room? I mean, you know, in A Slob Comes Clean, she has, like, this little chapter in her book, and it's called Dreams, and she sort of equates, like, craft rooms and things like that with sentimental stuff. And also, I think it falls under the same category of some things that might be, like, associated with grief. And she mentions, you know, I do think she's somewhat self-aware. She says, you know, I have not ever lost a spouse or a child or something. I'm not telling you to get rid of things without, you know, talking to, like, a professional and stuff. And I appreciate that self-awareness from her. But yeah, sewing stuff, I mean, none of it is strictly, like, I don't think that there are quite the same rules for the sewing space. Oh, I want to read Brandy Joe's because I love this. I looked up Slob Comes Clean and a site, and I am wired the opposite. I have a zero tolerance for clutter or things being out of order. It drives me nuts. In the second book of KonMari, she discusses to organize based on ease of putting away. Yeah, so Brandy, this is so interesting because, like, my brain is just, I so identify with her when she says, I can see the completely clean space, and then I can see, like, the terrible, oh my god, it's out of control. But the in-between, it's like, she calls it slob vision. That's totally me, and I felt so understood when she described that. And I love it that you're sharing that, like, oh, that's not a problem for me. That's not my issue, you know, so I like it. I like to hear from different people about that. But yeah, when she said slob vision, I was like, oh my gosh. And here's why. You know, slob isn't, like, a nice word, and she discusses why she uses it. But I like it that it's sort of like you can identify it and not put, like, a value judgment on it. Like, so, okay, I can't see, like, little incremental clutter. So what am I going to do to combat that? And she gives some tips. And I know other places give tips too. I really have kind of gone down that rabbit hole though. And, you know, keeping certain surfaces absolutely non-negotiably clear. Not every surface, but some surfaces. Non-negotiably clear, taking things where they go, and having a bit of a cleaning schedule has really helped me. Like, I have to implement those things. Whereas, maybe someone like you, Brandy Joe, if you're like, oh, well, I just put things away, like, and it might seem totally normal to you. I totally get it. I totally know people who don't have that problem. Lindsay says, wow, I wish my brain worked like that. I mean, you know, I've come to be like, my brain doesn't work like that, and it's okay. And I've got some strategies now. Okay, so strategies in the sewing room. To be honest, I don't think I wish that I had come up with, like, 2 decluttering questions for your sewing room or something like that. Like, I'm not all the way there yet. You know, I'm not perfect. We have a lot of stuff up here in our studio. Some of it is still from the store. One thing that Dana mentions that I didn't well, Marie Kondo mentions it too, is the container concept. This is what I think is most applicable to the sewing room. Like, how do you know what to get rid of or whatever? Zeddy and I don't like to tell you to get rid of anything. Maybe we're not the best people to be giving advice here, but we're like, there are certain rules about keeping fabric that some people follow, like based on time. And we're like, hell no. I got 30-year-old fabric here that was perfect for the project that I just did. And we do have the space for it. This is our job, of course. But like purely based on time, like, not good for us. Like we don't think that is applicable. Like if you have this wonderful black knit, that's perfect for neckbands or whatever, but it happens to be 5 years old, like, no, I'm not getting rid of it, because you said you would get rid of fabric if you used it after 4 years. So that's, okay, that's something we don't do. But you do have a container. Your house, like, if you were to take this concept and really blow it up, okay, your house is a container. Your sewing space is a container, and then the shelves or whatever you keep your fabric on is a container. And you're like, well, I'll fit as much on there as I can. I sanction that. I'm like, yes, keep as much of it. Keep as much of it as you can. But to be realistic, there's only so much that you can store, right? You couldn't bring home all the fabric and joins. I'm talking the thousands and thousands of bolts. Like if someone just gave them to you, maybe couldn't put them in your sewing space, okay? I mean, maybe somebody could. But you wouldn't be able to walk around in it, like it wouldn't be useful space to you, okay? So take it to that far extreme, all right? And then that's how the container concept works. Like, we have a bunch of printer paper, and she mentions printer paper, and she's like, if you have one drawer where you're keeping printer paper, and then you've got like 10 stacks of printer paper, she says, you shouldn't think about like buying more organizational tools or like getting a bigger house or something. You have to get rid of the printer paper that makes it so that you can't walk around your printer and access it. You need to donate it to someone or something like that. And will you have to buy more printer paper in the future? Maybe. And that's where it's funny. I haven't listened to the latest Slob Comes Clean podcast where she apparently kind of bashes on Marie Kondo, but that is some place where they overlap. They're like, don't try and be buying like special baskets and like the perfect storage container or the da-da-da-da-da. Of course, having those things will help, but the container concept doesn't mean going and buying pretty baskets at Marshall's like I want to do so bad. Oh my God. I see those baskets and they massage something in my brain and I'm like, oh, I could put things in there and they'd be in baskets and it's not what I need though. It's really not practical for where I live in my space and stuff like that. But boy, those marketers, they know. They've done some kind of psychological testing and they understand what is appealing on the shelf. So anyway, I like that container concept. That's something that it's like, okay, well, you gotta find a space for it or, it is going to need to be donated or something like that. Now, the sewing room is special. It's different. It's totally different. Let's see some comments here. My problem is that when I finish a project, I have no desire to put things away afterward. I typically have the pattern pieces strewn around along with my notions. All right. So, like identifying a bad habit. When I say bad habit, like I said, I don't like the value judgments as much. An unproductive habit, a habit that gets in your way. If you can identify it, then like, okay, I must make myself a rule that I must put the pattern pieces back before I start that new project. If that's something that you need to sort of impose upon yourself, maybe it is. Like my house cleaning day that I have to have so that it doesn't go like 3 months without me cleaning my bathroom. Sorry, I admitted it. I did it. Brandy Joe, I wanted to bring up, she commented again, she's the very organized person. She says that her mindset can backfire sometimes, being wired that way. I cannot function and or think until I clean. And yeah, I think that there are some sort of perfectionist tendencies that can get in our way, both for people with slob vision or whatever you want to call it, and people who have this natural inclination to clean. Dana mentions that she thinks slobs are often idealists that they think, oh, well, I can't, like, it's not going to get organized unless I have hours and hours and time and muscle and space to organize. That's me. I'm like, oh, I don't even want to mess with it unless I can do the whole thing. And then there were these baking implements out on my kitchen counter, and they really could be put in a cabinet, and I just needed to move a couple things. But for some reason, I was like, well, that's just such a small thing. And it made me think it wasn't worth it. But, so I finally did it. Made such a difference. There was, like, all this, new space on my counter, like, duh. And here I am. I'm being a little hard on myself, I'm kind of down on myself here, but I want it to be helpful, to other people. Even though it's a small thing, it was really helpful. So let's see here. We got some good comments here. I love it. My unproductive habit is that I buy fabric and place it in a pile and don't put it away into my organized bins. Yeah, there are a lot of people who have, like a rule that before they bring that fabric in their house and they like serge it and wash it and put it away like right away. That's cool. Wish I did that better. I've tried to do it. Someone asks, I can't see your name. If you give permission, I can see your name. Out of curiosity, is there sewing stuff I should regularly cull? What expires? After how long? Thread, some fabric, fusibles, marking accessories? Well, this is a good question. A lot of sewing goods are actually really good for a long time. So I would recommend on your marking tools, maybe to mark the date that you bought it, or if you can on like elastic, Lindsay brings up elastic, and materials, if you can, like on the label, like with fusible stabilizer, we put the label inside it. If you can mark the date, that can be good because it can just help you if something's not working. But it's not like I regularly go through my marking tools and cull them, but if I get one out and start marking with it, I'm going to throw it away if it doesn't work, okay? So elastic, yes, like things can degrade. Cotton thread can degrade faster than polyester will. Like polyester thread is, man-made fiber that's probably going to, last through nuclear fallout. And that can be good and not good for some reasons. So cotton thread, that's why we say if someone's gifted you old thread from like a relative who died or something, like, well, maybe it's not the best thing to put through your sewing machine or to like sew up the crotch seam of your pants with. But it's not like food, it's not like in your kitchen, or I'm trying to think of like what other hobby would you like sort of cull things out. I don't know. I mean, Mom has a lot of like writing utensils up here, and I know one time when we were decluttering, we had my niece, like she just went through with the writing utensils and saw which ones were dried out and threw those away. I'm just trying to think of something. We have a bead collection, and like those are going to last forever. Let's see here. Thread. Yes, a thread can be old, especially natural fibers. Lindsay, elastic can rot, loses elasticity. Cotton thread can rot. Fusibles can dry out, but you can beef it up with heat and bond. Okay, so, storing your fusibles and your water solubles can, in like a plastic bag, can help them to not dry out and things like that. Keeping things away from light as well. So that's my answer for that. I lucked out with storage. I've been using my SO's older purpose made tool storage. It's slowly been turning my overall craft storage into a mini shop. Yeah, okay. So we will fill our spaces, right? Like if someone has a 10 by 12 sewing space, okay, and then they're given a 30 by 20 sewing space, you will fill it up. You will fill it up, you will fill it up, you will fill it up. Fred, we have our wonderful blog post on our tiny sewing room, and if all of a sudden Fred came across more space, he'd probably fill it up, right? I don't know if Fred's watching. Maybe I'm putting words in her mouth, but I'm just, using that as an example because it's a lovely blog post on our site. So she's a little bit of the opposite of, sort of some of the issues that I'm discussing today. She's, really pared down and consolidated and done a great job of organizing with a big limitation. And the limitation can help. Okay, I'm going to mention the zine. Actually, I'm going to bring this in here. Let's see if I can show this. Woo, look at that. This is a little preview. I'm going to put it right in front of my face. This is a little preview of the January zine. I promise it's coming out. I am trying to polish it up. Right now, I had to update my InDesign, and it totally screwed me up, but that's my own fault. So anyway, my main article in the zine this month is Heal Your Relationship with Your Sewing Space. And I'm really excited about it. So that's what I'm working on finishing up today. So in the zine, we talk about ZD's evolution with her sewing space. And this is something people have mentioned that they like about our site. Hi, Lauren. Is that there's me. I'm 29, and I'll be like 30 in October, so in a little bit. And ZD is going to be 66 on February 13th. Mark the date. So we have like really different generational experiences of sewing, and I have grown up around my mom having this sewing studio my entire life, my entire life. In fact, like when my sisters are older than me, they're like 7 and 10 years older than me, and they didn't always have the mom with the studio, like this, and I did. So even that experience of my sisters is a little different, and so we have these very different generational experiences, and there's also an article in the zine, and we're going to publish a podcast about her sewing space evolution. And she's like, yeah, I couldn't keep as much stuff early on. So where are you on your sewing journey? Are you a person who owns their own home? Do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Are you ever planning on having kids? Do you not know? I mean, I bring up kids because, like, they take up a lot of space in your brain, in your house, on your body. So anyway, hi Manuela. So that is, I don't know if y'all can hear the chainsaw out there, but my dad's obviously chopping something down close to the house. Okay, so being in a different place in your journey, you might appreciate certain advice more, and not all of the decluttering advice that I started off this broadcast talking about might work for the sewing space, might work for your creative space as much as for like your house. I missed a broadcast right on Friday, I guess. And I didn't go in my sewing space. It was like a really busy day. So I missed one day. And then the next day I came in and did live, and I talked about how you shouldn't be too hard on yourself if you miss a day. Haha. And that day, all I did was, like, I cleaned off the cutting table and I swept the floor real quick. And I thought, maybe that's not something that I should do, like, every day. But is it something that I should do if I don't have enough time to come in here and sew? Like, should I just, like, sweep the floor? Because, like, the floor could always be swept. Like, is that something I should do? Because I mentioned that I'm going to do the, Heal Your Relationship with Your Sewing Space. Okay, that article's coming up. And I'm doing a little bit of that because I feel like I've been healing my relationship with, like, my house and my laundry habits and all of that. So it's also a mental thing, and I write about that a little bit. I'm not a doctor, as many of you know, but I write about kind of my experience with certain issues like fear of failure and procrastination and stuff like that in relation to the sewing space. Lauren says, feels like ages ago I did a blog post on organized sewing spaces in different living situations. Shoot me that link, Lauren. Yeah, please send that to me. You can message me or email me to send me that link. Another person comments, the space thing is so important. When we were in an apartment, we had to constantly get rid of stuff. Now we just shove it in the basement. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to make a few assumptions, and I'm not sure who commented. You got to give your permission up in the video description. But we will fill our spaces, and sometimes a smaller space, I've heard people say, oh man, I really knew everything I had when the space was smaller. And now I have more stuff, but I like don't know where it all is, or I don't have access to it, or something like that. So that is something that you can keep in mind. And it's something, if you have insecurities about your sewing space, and this is a big part of my article in the zine, if you see other people's sewing spaces, I've mentioned Evie Lalouve, she's a lingerie blogger, Closet Case, love Heather, Closet Case Files Patterns. She's always posting gorgeous pictures of their studio and workspace, and mine never looks like that, ever. It's never going to look like that. And should I then extrapolate that I am not as good of a person or as good of a business owner? No, but I am like, oh gosh, that's so pretty. Like, you know, my cutting table has never been completely clear, you know. It's just, we're just always... And taking a picture of your gorgeous sewing space, putting it on Instagram is a wonderful thing to do. Like, it's not a bad thing to do. I'm not being critical or bashing anyone who's got like gorgeous Instagram photos, but it does make me reflect a bit on some of my insecurities there. Anyway, I've loved seeing your sewing spaces. I like seeing sort of I mean, I hesitate to even call them imperfections, but the very real nature of different people sewing in different spaces, you know. And we mention a lot that the sewing machine used to be like a, what's the word? Totally losing it. An appliance. There we go. I was like, a utensil. No. The sewing machine used to be an appliance that every household had. Even back then, when it was was seen to be something very essential and necessary for keeping up your family's clothing, you know, those people didn't have sewing studios. So now we're at this place where the DIY movement is so big and lots of people are sewing. And now people are like, I want a space. I want a big space. So this is like kind of a new situation. So yeah, I think that it's very important to not be too hard on yourself, as in the challenge and as with your space. Lauren says photo cropping is a real thing. Yeah, I totally know. I know that there's, you know, staged and styled and, you know, brands on Instagram, and like, maybe I should do this too. You know, it's like you should always have perfect lighting, and you should always have everything look very on brand, and maybe your brand is about being very, very clean and minimalist and stuff, you know, so that's great. And that's just not who, like, we are. Even when it's like really organized, there's just like lots of things. We don't have like all clean white bare walls, you know, so, anyway, I am so happy that you all are enjoying the Sewing Space live broadcast. My Sewing Space thing that I'm going to do in the Sewing Space today is to work on finishing the zine. I've just been working with some different layouts, and actually I think it's really pretty. So Backstitch members and Zigzag members, you're going to be getting the zine real soon here. And here's a little picture of it. So anyway, all right, everybody, I'll be live again tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what I'll be talking about, but I'll be talking about something. Maybe I'll be sewing something. All right, everybody, so long and so happy, and have a great day in your sewing space.